All right, it's 2 o'clock now. Happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Yiling Zhuang. I'm the Water Resources Regional Specialized Agent in University of Florida IFAS Extension. Welcome to the Water Wednesdays. Water Wednesdays is a webinar series about Florida's precious resource, water. Every Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll live stream a 30-minute talk about Florida's water and what we can do to protect it. We host our webinar series on Zoom and broadcast to Facebook Live. If you are viewing us on Facebook Live, just keep in mind there are about 10 seconds delay between Facebook and Zoom. Some of you already know we have a theme for Water Wednesday every month. October is Agriculture Best Management Practices Month. November, we focus on Florida Springs. This month is the Urban Agriculture Month. What is urban agriculture? With that question, let me introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. Catherine Campbell. She is our community food system specialist. Now, let's welcome Dr. Campbell to tell us what is urban agriculture.
Hi there. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Catherine Campbell. I'm Assistant Professor of Community Food Systems in the Department of Family, Youth, and Community Sciences, and I'm located at the Mid-Florida Research and Education Center. Let me go ahead and share my slides. Okay, so if you could go to the link that's at the bottom of the screen, or there is a QR code on the on the upper right side of the screen, where if you hold up your phone and turn on your camera, it should allow you to go to a page where we're going to be doing some live polling during today's talk. Okay, so the first question that I would like you all to answer on your phones or in your web browser is, what kinds of activities or operations do you think of when you hear urban agriculture? And because I know there's a delay for our people out in Facebook land, I'm going to give you some time to put in your responses. All right, so I see gardening, gardens, backyard, food. Anything else? All right. So turning now to the overview of the presentation for today, I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what urban agriculture is. Then I'm going to turn to why urban agriculture may be a key opportunity for the state of Florida. I will review some key themes and the benefits, risks, and limitations of urban agriculture. And then I will conclude by describing some limitations or gaps in the current state of the research literature. So in a way, that first slide was a little bit of a trick question because there actually is no standard definition of urban agriculture in the literature. And the definitions that people use differ depending on their region, country, or field of study. The image over on the right shows you an example of the types of things that people generally refer to as urban agriculture, which is everything from school and rooftop gardens, urban farms, community gardens, innovative techniques like hydroponics and aquaculture, and then also peri-urban agriculture. So the general definition that we can use here today is that urban agriculture is food production or animal husbandry in urban or peri-urban areas, which includes commercial, non-commercial, or hybrid type operations. So turning now to some examples that I think can help us understand the various facets of urban agriculture. And I want to highlight to you that one of the important things to think about with urban agriculture is the different intentions with which people do it. So this is an example from Calera, which is here in Central Florida. They're a very high-tech operation, and they advertise their produce as clean and nutritious, non-GMO, pesticide-free, sustainable, and local. This is another example of urban agriculture that's a different sort of perspective, which is this is the Dania Beach Patch, which is a community-based horticulture program that's intended to revitalize neighborhoods, remove blighted conditions, improve community health, nutrition, and access to healthy foods and communities. A third example, again from here in Central Florida, is the Winter Park Urban Farm. And they are a small market garden, and they are also aiming to support a sustainable food system, provide local food, and do direct sales via CSA farmers markets. So in summary, urban agriculture activities include home, community, and institutional gardens, urban and peri-urban farms, farming on vacant lots, bee, poultry, and animal keeping, vertical, horizontal greenhouse production, aquaculture, hydroponics and aquaponics, and finally urban sales and market channels such as farmers market or market stands or market gardens, which while that isn't actual production in an urban space, because those producers are selling directly to the urban communities, those are generally considered under the umbrella of urban agriculture. Okay, so we have arrived at our next poll. So in your opinion, the overall impact of urban agriculture is, and again, if you haven't joined the poll yet, you can go to, I believe the link should be in the chat for how to join, or you could scan the QR code that was at the beginning. And again, I'm conscious of the delay with Facebook, so I'll give you all more time to respond. Okay, so why is urban agriculture a key opportunity for the state of Florida? Well, part of the reason for that are demographic shifts that have been occurring in the state of Florida. So we now have over 20 million residents in Florida, with just 2 million that were added in the last decade. 44 out of Florida's 67 counties are now classified as urban. And in the last decade, 32 Florida counties became more urban in the last decade. 10 of those changed from a rural to an urban classification. In addition, there are a variety of diet and health risk factors in Florida. So under the heading of diet nutrition, more than 4 out of 5 Floridians do not eat the recommended servings of fresh fruits and vegetables. There are a variety of diet-related health risks, and there are food security issues, with 13% of Florida households being classified as food insecure, and almost 1 out of 5 Florida children are classified as food insecure. So key themes and the benefits and limitations of urban agriculture have to do with its social and cultural impacts, economic and community development, its impacts on human health and well-being, and its impacts on the environment. We're now at the next poll. So I would like you to rank out of the 4 major themes in the types of benefits that urban agriculture can provide for communities, which you think is the largest benefit to the smallest benefit at the bottom. And so that's social and cultural, economic and community development, human health and well-being, or the environment. So I'll give you a minute because it's a little bit difficult. You can tap on the slide and we'll move your responses up and down. Right. So it looks like human health and well-being are ranked the highest. Now with social and cultural coming in second, economic and community development, and then environment third. So I'm now going to turn to reviewing the current state of the literature on these various topics. So beginning with social capital and community cohesion. And I'll just note that if you look at the bottom of the slides, those are references that I've used to support these various statements that I'm saying. And so based on the number of references there, you can get a sense for how strong the evidence is related to these. So beginning with social capital and community cohesion, community gardening has been found to provide opportunities for community interaction. It increases social connections. It can strengthen residents' pride of place. Community gardens can serve as a sort of third place for community social interaction. And the idea of a third place is that it's a place that's not home or work, which are traditionally the first and second place in people's lives, but it's a third place for social interaction for people to get together informally, which has been found to be particularly important in urban areas where green spaces are rare. And it also has been found to increase perceptions of safety and perceptions of crime reduction, where I've put those terms in italics because it's actually been found that it doesn't reduce safety if you look at the data, but it increases people's perception of safety. Some limitations in terms of the social benefits of urban agriculture have to do with what is referred to as the helicopter model, which is a case where you have someone coming in from outside to initiate and implement a program and then manage it and then leave. So that's why it's called the helicopter model, where someone's coming from outside, dropping in, doing something, and then leaving. And so those kinds of models for implementing these programs can create problems with sustainability or community benefit, because if the community isn't engaged at the beginning, they may not be willing to continue the program after whoever implements it leaves, or there can be issues of community benefit because the community itself may not have selected the particular type of program, and so it may not be creating the benefit that they're looking for. It can also be alienating because outsiders are perceived to be coming in to fix them or fix problems in their community. Another benefit that's been found of urban agriculture is that it can provide opportunities for intercultural interaction. It can strengthen intergenerational relationships. And that's particularly true of gardening programs that can allow for parents to garden with children or grandparents to garden with their grandchildren. It has been found to help immigrants develop a sense of belonging and cultural expression and maintaining cultural heritage. For example, in some gardens in South Florida, people from other countries have been able to integrate into the local community, grow foods that are native to their homeland, and then share those with people in the community as a part of cultural expression. Some limitations in terms of the cultural integration and preservation have to do with these two contrasting issues. So on the one hand, we have an issue where many of these programs are implemented by young white non-residents in predominantly Black or Latino neighborhoods, which can have the effect of unintentionally excluding people of color from participating or reaping their benefits. But on the other side of the coin, there have been initiatives that are led by lower income communities themselves, but they've had disparities in access to land, funding, and political support. Urban agriculture has also been found to provide opportunities for employment and youth development. So it can create opportunities to develop new skills, to learn about agriculture, nutrition, sustainability. It can be used to promote job training and youth development, and employment and workforce training, particularly for low-income and socially excluded populations. For example, the picture to the right is one of a program that is done for special needs children. After they graduate from high school, they have an additional 3 years that they can be trained to have job skills so that they can be sufficient adults. Some limitations under the heading of employment or youth development is that the sort of comprehensive or intensive education beyond basic skills, particularly for special needs children, can require additional expertise, staff time, or labor costs. Some of these types of operations are not likely to provide a significant number of limited livable wage jobs. And then finally, just a reminder about the helicopter model I mentioned earlier, which is that some of the people in these communities may prefer a different type of program or job training than this type of program if it's being implemented by an outside group. Another important benefit of urban agriculture can be an opportunity for community redevelopment. So it can bring in entrepreneurial activities that can attract capital or create profitable business opportunities, particularly in distressed areas. The image on the right is from a program that was implemented in Baltimore called Vacant Lots to Vibrant Plots. And it was used as a part of a community redevelopment initiative. It can also increase property values surrounding community gardens. And that's been found to be the case, particularly in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. Some limitations from the point of view of community redevelopment is, again, the other side of the coin of increasing property values. You're raising the possibility that you might displace or marginalize low-income residents that the program might be designed to support. These types of initiatives often lack long-term land tenure. They have competition with other land uses or land development. For some of these high-tech commercial operations, long-term economic viability or profitability are unproven. So that's not to say that they won't be viable or profitable in the long term. It's just that many of these things are so new that we don't have good data yet to support what their long-term viability and profitability will be. And then finally, these types of programs require financial and political support. And so many of these types of programs, particularly if they are geared towards trying to incorporate other social missions, can't survive on the profits from selling produce alone. A frequently cited benefit of urban agriculture is increasing food access and food security. So research has found that it increases access to fresh, organic, or culturally appropriate produce. It can produce cost savings on groceries. It can support communities' fresh produce needs, particularly if we're including peri-urban agriculture, by which I mean agriculture on the perimeter of cities. And then, as is particularly salient this year in the COVID-19 pandemic, it can help maintain a city's capacity to produce food in times of crisis. Some limitations from the point of view of food access and food security is that some of these operations may not actually intend to supply food to the communities in which they are located. So they may be located in an economically depressed area, but they may be producing high-end food for high-end restaurants or hotels, so not actually directly intending to support food access or food security. They may not be economically or physically accessible to community residents. So for example, if some people rely on public transportation to get food, if these types of operations aren't on a bus line, they wouldn't be accessible to those residents. These kinds of programs require community interest and support for both growing food and eating seasonally. And finally, there are a variety of practical constraints associated with growing food in urban areas, which include zoning, suitability for food production, property values, which can impact the amount of taxes you have to pay on this space, infrastructure limitations such as access to water, and again, the public accessibility that I mentioned before. So in addition to potentially increasing access to healthy food, urban agriculture has been found to actually increase the consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. So for example, one study found that looking at a household with one person who gardens, the entire household increased their consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. And youth who participate in gardening programs are more likely to try and eat fresh fruits and vegetables than those who don't. Some limitations in terms of the fruit and vegetable consumption is that increased consumption just by gardeners or gardening families may not represent an overall improvement in food security or dietary quality in the community at large. And food that's grown may not be culturally appropriate or desired by the community members. Urban agriculture has benefits in terms of health and well-being. So it can be a source of physical activity. Gardening can have mental health and therapeutic benefits such as stress reduction or connection to nature. And having more vegetation in urban areas can provide ecosystem services that can benefit the health of urban residents. The health and well-being limitations, as with the consumption of fruits and vegetables being limited to the gardening families, the physical activity benefits, again, are going to be limited to those people that are actually participating in these programs. And there can be health risks from soil contaminants or airborne pollutants if there aren't preventive measures taken to reduce exposures or mitigate soil contamination. There are a variety of potential environmental benefits of urban agriculture, which would include reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from transportation, particularly if you're having food that's flown in from another hemisphere, carbon sequestration by vegetation and crops. It can reduce energy and resource inputs, increase biodiversity, potentially reduce air pollution, and yield some temperature regulation in urban areas. There are some limitations to those potential environmental benefits, one of which is that having small-scale fragmented food production, each of those individual operations may actually be less efficient in their resource use than conventional agriculture. Another finding has been that increasing urban agriculture could potentially increase urban sprawl. So while your food may not produce as many greenhouse gas emissions, it may yield a situation where people in communities actually have to travel further in their day-to-day lives, and so thereby a net balance of increase of greenhouse gas emissions. And then finally, some urban growers may not know correct soil management, irrigation, or fertilizer use practices. So some limitations in the literature is that most of the literature demonstrating the benefits of urban agriculture has focused primarily on community gardens, not commercial urban agriculture enterprises. A lot of this data is associational or cross-sectional, which means it doesn't show a causal connection. It merely shows that two things are happening at the same time, but we don't really know whether there's a causal relationship. And finally, the majority of the research on urban agriculture has been conducted in high density cities in the Northeast. So there may be limited applicability for Florida's climate or sprawling cities. So some final thoughts. There are potential issues in social justice or community autonomy, again, with that helicopter model that I mentioned that you need to be conscious of in thinking about urban agriculture. And that urban agriculture is not a panacea. This has been referred to in the literature as the quote unquote unattainable trifecta, which is the myth that urban agriculture without long-term external funding can simultaneously do three things, each of which are difficult to do on their own. And so that's to provide food to people with limited resources at affordable prices, to provide job training and work experience for people who are typically excluded from employment or leadership roles, and to generate income and create jobs funded by profits from farm sales. Okay, so now you have another poll. After hearing the presentation and my discussion of the various social and cultural benefits, economic and community development, health and well-being, and environmental benefits, go ahead and re-rank those from top to bottom. All right. Looks like environment is still coming in fourth as it did on the initial round of rankings. Social and cultural is first, health and well-being is second, economic and community development third. So we have one final poll. So overall, after hearing all of these potential benefits and limitations, what would you say the overall impact of urban agriculture is on communities? Right, just give it a second, more people to answer. Right, well, I appreciate you all for participating in the survey, live survey polling. These are the references that were used in this presentation. And I'll thank you for your time and open it up for questions.
Thank you, Catherine. Let me check. I've been watching our Facebook page, so far I haven't seen any questions. So for Facebook viewers, if you have any questions, just leave in the comment section, then I will read it out to our guest speaker. And on the Zoom platform, you can also put your questions into the chat box. So while our attendees are typing, so I do want to say it's urban agriculture is more complicated than I thought.
It is complicated, and there is a real problem with knowing how to define it, because it's a lot of different types of things and different dimensions. And so one of the biggest difficulties in literature is knowing how to define urban agriculture, what's included or not.
Yeah. I guess everyone now have this, they probably have the same thought. It's more complicated. So while I think some people are still typing on Facebook, which is fine. I will put a link here. It's for the evaluation. So if you like our talk, you like our webinar series, we will greatly appreciate if you can take the survey and tell us what you have learned and how we can improve that. If you don't have any questions on top of your head now, you have Dr. Campbell's email, or you can just email me. I will direct the questions to her. So with that, I will thank you for your time. Oh, forgot to mention, because this month it's the Urban Ag Month. So this Wednesday, it's a general urban agriculture. I say general, you can see it's actually it's a more in details. So the risks, the benefits, and the next Wednesday, we'll discuss the growing needs in urban agriculture. And before the holiday, the third Wednesday of this month, it will be a specific activity of urban agriculture, which is hydroponics. If you haven't registered the event, we highly encourage you to attend all the 3 series to have a better understanding of urban agriculture. And with that, I will thank for your time and look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. Bye now. And thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.